welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober. Thanks for joining me. Today on our show, we'll talk to musician Yael Deckelbaum about her new album and hear her play. A movie takes a look at Germany in the 50s, coming to terms with their history. And we'll check out a light installation on the Sydney Opera House. Yael Deckelbaum is an Israeli singer and songwriter. These days she's releasing her third album, Enosh, which she produced through a crowdfunding campaign. I'm very happy to have her in the studio. Thanks for coming in, Yael.
Thank you for taking me.
So I want to go back a little bit. You started very young, at a very young age, started singing.
We all started young.
Well, yeah, I was particularly small. But you started strong, unlike me. And very early on in your career, you were singing with some very famous performers, such as Shlomo Artzi. How did that feel? How did that happen?
Well, I was in military band, and then I was yanked out of there straight into an amazing performance with Israeli Philharmonic and Sir George Martin. They were looking for a... Sir George Martin, the producer of the Beatles.
Yeah. Little known name.
Just a little bit, a small beginning. And there is where I met Shlomo. Actually, I was singing a solo song called Obladi Oblada, and Shlomo came up to me and he said, "You don't believe how much magic you're producing." And
then you were ready to retire.
And
basically.
That's it. And then I retired. And I was reborn. And
that must have been overwhelming.
It was. Yes, it was.
What does it do to a young performer?
I was very unready, to tell you the truth. I was so fresh and just out of the army. I had no idea what kind of world I'm living in, how the music industry works, how to absorb everything that was happening, but it just happened. So I went with it. And then Shlomo called me to do a duet with him. Found myself a few months later recording a duet with Shlomo Artzi and performing with him for 2 years all over Israel, Caesarea.
Some big venues.
Very big venues. And
well, you gained some experience there, but then you had to go and find your own way, right? You did with Shlomo Artzi, you toured with Machina as well. Then you went and started the Banot Nechama, the Nechama Girls, right? Which was a very successful group, you and Carolina and Dana Adini.
Yes.
You only released one album, though.
Yes.
Why only one?
I think we will do another one. We like uniting and making our music together, but each and every one of us is also has a very strong statement of her own, and we wanted to make room for each other to express ourselves in a solo career.
Okay.
So we each went our own paths, but we're still a family and we're very, very good friends, and so we're planning on...
So there could still be a future.
There is a future for Banot Nechama. We like to do our solo things in between.
That's great. That's great news, I must say.
Thank you.
Now you sing both in English and in Hebrew.
Yes.
Your first album was in English. Your second album was in Hebrew. This one is a little bit of both. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Where did that come from? Do you write in both languages?
Well, I started off singing in English, not in Hebrew, because my father is a Canadian. I grew up in a English-speaking bubble in Israel.
Okay.
Folk music, Irish music. And my father used to play banjo. He had a folk band called the Taverners. And ever since I was very young, I was singing Irish folk songs.
Irish folk songs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is how I grew up. Okay. So when I actually started singing in Hebrew with Banot Nechama. That's the first time I started writing Hebrew songs and opening myself to Hebrew, also with Shlomo.
Yeah.
But writing Hebrew songs came with Banot Nechama.
I see. Well, that helps, I guess. Nowadays, you can turn to a larger audience, and you need that audience. You also turn to this audience when you wanted to produce this last album, as we said, went through a crowdfunding campaign. Was it an obvious choice for you, or I mean, you must have had other options. You're already pretty well established.
I had very nice options, also with international record labels.
Yeah.
But I found myself waiting and depending on them to make music, and I at some point decided that I can't continue being dependent on people with money and on their opinions and the things that they want, so that I can release my album. So I decided, okay, I have enough. I have built a very, very nice audience in Israel. I think it's time that I asked them if they want me to make music. So I turned to them, and it was proven like a very good choice. So I did it, and they supported me, and it made me go into the studio with a lot of faith, and wanting to make the music also for them, like not just for myself.
That's a great result in this case, but sometimes the result can be different. I guess what I'm asking is, what does it make you feel about the state of the music business?
Well,
because it can have a very nice outcome, but what if you couldn't find it? I mean, you're pretty well established. You do have other jobs that you have to maintain yourself, even as a pretty well-established musician. What does it tell us about the state of the business?
I think that record companies are losing their powers, especially here in Israel, also all over the world. Only the really, really, really big labels can actually support music making. The artists these days need to be very involved in every aspect of their career, and need to understand how things are working. The internet, actually, the same thing that gives us the power to communicate with our audience directly, is the same thing that also took away the power from the record companies, because today people don't buy physical albums as they used to. It's very easy to download music. In Israel, it's really completely, people are unaware of the fact that you can purchase music online. So
straight from the artist sometimes.
So actually the best way to sell albums these days, physical albums, is to sell them in advance through Head Start.
I see. Well, it worked for you, so we're certainly for that. Now you're gonna sing for us a little later on the show. What are you gonna sing for us?
I'm going to sing a song called Angel Song.
Angel Songs. That's from the latest album.
Yes.
Great, Yael. It was a pleasure having you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, the 1950s, as you can imagine, were complex times in Germany. The country in general disregarded the Holocaust, at least until prosecutor Fritz Bauer insisted on dealing with the country's history. Now, a new film called Labyrinth of Lies brings this fascinating story to the screen. Shachar Peled met with the film's director and its star and brought back this story.
The Nuremberg trials held by the International Court and Adolf Eichmann's prosecution in Israel are famous as historic legal actions against the Nazi atrocities of World War II. But for his debut feature film, German-Italian director Giulio Ricciarelli decided to shed light on another significant tribunal, unknown to many.
We tell the story how in the 50s, German society was basically denying and not talking about the Holocaust at all. So you had a young generation growing up without knowing about it.
In 1958 Frankfurt, nobody wanted to look back at the time of the Nazi regime. Facing great political and legal resistance, German prosecutor Fritz Bauer initiated an investigation against members of the SS who served in Auschwitz.
His first legal approach was to say Auschwitz itself is a murder machine. Anybody who did anything there was part of this machine and was guilty.
In his film, Ricciarelli chose a young fictional prosecutor as the lead, with Bauer's character in the supporting role.
It was important to have a young protagonist who's also himself discovering the story. And that was just, for the drama, it was very useful to look at the time through his eyes.
Wer sind eigentlich unsere Verdächtigen? Alle. Wie alle? Alle, die dort gedient haben.
With everyone seemingly involved or guilty in what took place at Auschwitz, the movie probes Germany's greatest dilemma.
Wissen Sie, was Sie da anrichten? Wollen Sie, dass sich jeder junge Mensch in diesem Land fragt, ob sein Vater ein Mörder ist? Ja, genau das will ich. Ich will, dass dieser Lügen und dieses Schweigen endlich aufhören.
There's a certain tiredness about the subject, so people say, okay, we know everything about it. And this is something that changed for me while shooting the movie, because now I know that there was a strong danger that this confrontation might have not be happening.
Alongside a wave of new films dealing with the story of the Holocaust, from the Oscars Best Foreign Film Ida to the winner of Cannes Grand Prix Son of Saul, The Labyrinth of Lies provides a unique glimpse at how Germans dealt and continue to face their self-inflicted wounds.
When you switch on the TV in Germany, you will always find a program that is, speaking about the Holocaust. But what we now call coming to terms with history took us such a long time, and this is our approach, and this is the approach of the story.
Bringing it to the Israeli audience was an emotional experience, especially for second and third generation Holocaust survivors.
There are so many films about the Holocaust, but this one is more about how Germany is actually reacting to the history of the Holocaust.
As he brings this forgotten story into the spotlight, Ricciarelli hopes, much like Bauer ahead of him, to educate and illuminate on crimes of the past.
Germans do not file on Germans. That was the important thing, but not just for Germany. I think for all humanity, was a momentous moment in history.
In a moment, we'll see an impressive light show in Sydney, but first, here's our cultural recommendation for today.
Paul Bury, the surrealist painter who became a sculptor of kinetic art. To mark the 10th anniversary of the death of the Belgian artist, the EDF Foundation Center in Paris brought together the most important works of his prolific career. More than 80 sculptures, installations, its famous fountains, artwork and photographs help to retrace the career of this lover of curves and movement. After his short stay in the US, the Belgian chose to settle in Paris, where he exhibited his work in the most prestigious galleries of its time. An exhibition produced thanks to the complicity of Velma Bury, who shared the artist's life during more than 40 years. An unmissable exhibition for fans of Paul Bury.
And now Avri Rosen-Tzvi is already here in the studio.
Already
Avri, you're bringing us animation on a very interesting canvas.
Yeah, it's a very interesting canvas. These days, the Vivid Sydney Festival is taking place. It's a festival of lights, music, and ideas. They have all sorts of things. They have all sorts of things going there, but the most beautiful part is the light design part, in which they have in various spots around the city, various buildings and various sites, projections of different animation light shows, and the one we wanted to show today is the one on the Sydney Opera House, an iconic place. Let's watch a bit of the thing created by Universal Everything, who are in charge of this. They created this opening animation.
And they commissioned
various
artists, right?
20 animators, but this one was created by them. Let's watch it.
Let's see. Gorgeous stuff.
It's beautiful. You have to imagine working on a canvas like that can spark the imagination. Let's watch one more by Israeli animator Ori Tur. He was commissioned to do one of these parts. Let's watch a little bit of his segment.
Gorgeous stuff.
Beautiful stuff. It's going on until the first week of June. So if you happen to be in Sydney, look up.
Thanks, Avli. That's it from us for today. I hope you enjoyed our show. As promised, we leave you with Yael Deckelbaum's Angel song. Here it is. Enjoy.
La 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 It's all right now, just close your eyes. Don't think about tomorrow. Let your ancient sorrows gently slide out of sight. 'Cause I know your heart, and I know your soul, and I know the secrets that you hold. And I know your face, and I see your grace, and I see something in you that you don't. There's paradise